Let's jump right into today's explainer. We're looking at one of the absolute most intense, legendary narratives from the ancient world, Genesis chapter 6 through 8. Imagine hitting a massive, terrifying reset button on the entire planet. We're going to break down exactly why that happened, how one single family survived it, and what it actually means for the way our world operates today.
So, if the world were entirely consumed by violence, what would it actually take to start over? We're exploring this wild narrative by looking at the extreme stakes of a world totally drowning in corruption and the unbelievable obedience it took to survive it. Think about the hardest project you've ever had to tackle in school, or a challenge where you felt completely alone. Now multiply that by, well, the survival of the entire human race. That's what we're dealing with here.
Part 1. A world in ruin. Every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. This perfectly captures the absolute devastation of human character at the time. Look, it wasn't just bad behavior, it was a total systemic failure of humanity. Think of it like a computer system. This wasn't just a glitch in one app. The entire operating system was infected with a terminal virus. The situation was so completely unsalvageable that it actually grieved God's heart.
The whole earth was corrupted, but then we meet Noah. The text describes him as a just man who walked with God. Now, being in high school, you know exactly how heavy peer pressure can be, right? Imagine the peer pressure of being literally the only person on earth doing the right thing, surrounded by total moral collapse. Noah's integrity in the face of that overwhelming darkness, it's the sole reason humanity even gets a second chance. Which brings us to part 2, Blueprint for Survival. God commands Noah to build an ark with a staggering length of 300 cubits. To put that into perspective, an ancient cubit is the distance from a person's elbow to the tip of their fingers, so about 1.5 feet. That means this massive vessel was roughly 450 feet long. That is significantly longer than a professional football field. It also had to be 50 cubits wide, which is 75 feet. This created a massive footprint designed purely for preservation, not navigation. There were no sails, no steering wheel, no oars. Just a colossal, floating barge. Historically speaking, these proportions are perfectly designed for maximum stability in rough, open waters. It actually functioned a lot like our modern cargo ships.
And reaching 30 cubits high, this towering structure was a monumental test of Noah's faith and physical endurance. That's 45 feet tall, roughly the size of a 4-story building. Constructing something of this magnitude out of wood without modern power tools, cranes, or heavy machinery would require decades of backbreaking, relentless labor. The crazy part is, Noah didn't just build a boat. He faithfully executed this incredibly specific, massive blueprint to preserve the very breath of life. He harvested gopherwood, meticulously boiling and spreading pitch inside and out to make it totally waterproof. 3 separate decks. And he didn't just fit his family. He gathered 2 of every living creature, male and female, plus 7 of certain clean animals and birds, along with enough food to sustain this entire floating ecosystem. The text emphasizes a critical detail. He did according to all that God commanded him. Total, blind obedience.
Part 3. The waters rise.
Just imagine the agonizing psychological tension here. Noah, his family, and all those animals are sitting in the sealed ark for 7 full days. Dead silence, not a single drop of rain. And then the earth shatters. All the fountains of the great deep burst open, and the windows of heaven unleash an absolute deluge. For 40 days and 40 nights, it literally doesn't stop pouring. The waters prevail so heavily they cover the highest mountains. For 150 days, the earth is just swallowed by an endless raging ocean.
The narrative makes it chillingly clear. The destruction was absolute. All in whose nostrils was the breath of the spirit of life, all that was on the dry land, died. Birds, cattle, creeping things, every single human being. That bustling, violent, deeply corrupt society we saw at the beginning was entirely silenced, wiped away. Only Noah and those with him in the ark remained alive, floating above a drowned world.
Part 4. The Long Wait.
After months of just drifting over an endless ocean, the text gives us one of its most powerful phrases, "Then God remembered Noah." Now, he hadn't forgotten him, obviously, but this marks the profound moment of divine action shifting away from judgment and toward rescue. A wind passes over the earth, the fountains of the deep are stopped, the rain is restrained, and the waters finally begin to recede.
The ark finally comes to rest on the mountains of Ararat, and here, Noah acts almost like an ancient scientist testing his environment. First, he sends out a raven, a scavenger that just flies back and forth over the wreckage.
Then, a dove, which needs dry land to rest on. It comes right back. He waits 7 days, sends it again. This time, it returns with a freshly plucked olive leaf. Life is returning. Finally, after 7 more days, the dove flies out and doesn't come back. The earth is ready.
Part 5. The Eternal Covenant. After stepping onto dry land, Noah builds an altar and offers a sacrifice. In response, God establishes an eternal covenant. In the ancient world, you have to understand, a covenant wasn't just a casual promise. It was an unbreakable, legally binding treaty. God says, "I will never again curse the ground for man's sake, nor will I again destroy every living thing as I have done." He acknowledges that human nature is still flawed, that the imagination of man's heart is still bent toward evil. But God changes the rules of engagement, binding himself to never again use a flood to wipe out all living things.
This new world is defined by a beautiful rhythmic order: seed time and harvest, cold and heat, winter and summer, day and night. We completely take it for granted today that after winter comes spring and after night comes morning. But this story reframes those very cycles as an active, ongoing promise of safety. It is the ultimate safety net, giving human civilization the stability it needs to grow and thrive without the constant fear of total annihilation.
So, if one person's obedience could preserve life through a global catastrophe, how is moral integrity still the foundation for preserving our world today? Think about that as you reflect on this epic account of ruin and rebirth. This narrative shows us that while systems and societies can fall to absolute corruption, individual character, patience, and unwavering obedience can literally be the vessel that carries humanity forward. The restoration of the entire world depended completely on Noah having the courage to stand alone. I'll leave you with that thought until next time.